So hi guys, welcome back to our podcast. We are at the in the pod at White City Place. So I'm Mary and I'm here with.
Hi, I'm Stefan.
And I'm Janika Leah.
And our conversation today is going to be around career goals and things that we've experienced. So in regards to what are your experiences in regards to working? Have you gone through employment? Are you doing your own things? You want to go first?
Okay, for me personally, I'm still a student at university. I'm finishing off in 2 months. Kind of anxious about going back into the working world. I was in the working world prior, and I was doing an internship. I done some internships at the Bank of New York, and I done an apprenticeship as well in marketing.
Yeah.
Both places were quite interesting. So the apprenticeship was at a startup, and the internship is in like a very corporate global bank. So how they dealt with sickle cell were very different.
In both different places.
In different places. So the startup, it was interesting. It was in like in a warehouse, and yeah. So
Was it chilly?
It was a bit chilly. I was working there during the winter period. However, they allowed me to wear what I wanted to work.
Okay.
So that was fine, and they had like a separate radiator that they had for me.
Just for you.
Just for me, yeah.
Like that.
And so that was amazing, and I was comfortable there. I was able to come in at later if I needed to come in later because I didn't have a good night.
Okay, so like flexible working hours.
It was flexible working hours.
Yeah.
The Bank of New York, that was interesting because they had a whole different department for assisting people that needed extra support. So they got me like special chairs. They got me like a footrest.
You could tell they had the money, right?
They had all the
Tell
money.
the difference from the warehouse.
So that was like a really interesting thing to come across because I actually started not sure who to talk to.
Okay.
I wasn't too sure what I'm stepping into, and these offices also had air conditioning.
Oh, okay.
So that was a bit of an issue as well.
Yeah.
And they couldn't turn down the air conditioning for
They
the whole floor.
Okay, yeah.
Always the case with like big like corporate
Yeah.
buildings and stuff.
Yeah, they're always quite chilly, but then it's also about the air. It's like trying to keep the air moving in a sense.
It's always on in the winter, that's what I don't get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like cold breeze.
I think. Oh, go on.
No, I said that they said if I need to get up, walk around, leave my desk when I can.
You could do that.
Interesting enough, they had a hot chocolate machine, so
Yeah.
it was free hot chocolate on the floor.
But you rinse that.
Yeah, of course. And
I
for
think-
me,
yeah,
that was quite an eye opener
Yeah.
because before working, I thought to myself, I'm gonna have to try and do this and talk about this, and I'm not too sure how they're going to take it.
Yeah.
But really and truly, workplaces are quite understandable.
Some, by the way.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
These days, workplaces are very focused on employee satisfaction.
Yeah.
And if the employee's not satisfied, then that actually goes into their reports, and that's looked at as sort of misconduct and lack of corporate social responsibility.
Did you have to, like, I know you said they've got like a separate department that handles everything. Did you have to do a lot of work to get them to refer you and to get all that extra stuff, or were they really willing to like, oh, here's jet, oh, here's footrest, like?
Yeah.
There wasn't really extra work for me. It was probably just a letter from a consultant,
And that was it?
and that was it. Yeah.
All
No
right.
way.
Have you had any experiences yourself?
My journey's been different. I've tried it all. I
Yeah.
went from retail to sitting in the office,
Yeah.
and then finally just thinking, I'm not doing this anymore. But it's always been difficult to kind of try and get the support. But then at the same time, I feel like it could have been because of how I disclosed
The
how I had
information.
sickle cell.
Yeah.
So in my very first jobs, in fact, my first few jobs, which were all quite active or on my feet. I worked in like a children's activity centre thing. And then after that, I went into retail, so I was on my feet and stuff. I did say that I had sickle cell, just in case I had any appointments and things like that.
You needed to go to.
But they didn't really care. I was quite replaceable, I think, especially in retail. Like, you got like Christmas temps and stuff like that. So if you ain't going to do it, someone else is going to do it.
Yeah.
So the way that I disclosed that I had sickle cell was more like, so you know, you have to put it, there was a form, do you have any medical conditions? I would put sickle cell. And then in my interview, when they'd ask about it, I'd be like, yeah, it's just this thing in my blood, but it's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't really get sick from it. I haven't, you know, when I was younger, it used to affect me, but now it's not that bad. Whereas that was a whole lie. Like, when I was younger, it was bad, and at that time, it was still quite bad.
Yeah,
but I just
still,
thought,
you wanted the money.
I can't say, like, yeah, so I've got sickle cell and, you know, I get sick quite often. I might not be at work, and you just don't want to
sell yourself.
You don't
like
want to do that because you're probably not going to get the job. So the way I explained it was that it wasn't really a big deal, and so I think I used to push myself to keep working even when I wasn't well.
Same.
And then you end up, you know, taking like a long time off. I remember one retail job I had, I won't disclose the brand or company, but I was unable to come in one of the days. It was around Christmas
time.
And because of the Christmas temp and, you know, all of the hours, they were like, if you don't come in, just don't come back. And I was just like, okay, later.
And that's so frustrating.
I know,
you know,
but it is what it is. So I feel like I've had a very different experience. But then
I also think it's the industry. Cause,
I was going to say,
yeah,
it's really different compared to, like, obviously very corporate and all that stuff. When I did go into, like, I qualified to be an accountant. So when I was actually, like, working with an accountant and stuff, it was a lot better. And I did get, like, a special chair. And I was able to take more breaks if I needed to, like, get up and same sort of thing. But then on the back of that, you get other employees who see you, like, with, like, people used to try to take my chair.
Or be like, why do you have it? Why do you need it?
Why does she have that
looks
chair?
fine.
So then you get, like, the judgment from other people.
Yeah.
And I just...
I think it's working around that mentally and just knowing potentially some people might look at you sideways, but being all right with it in a sense.
Yeah, you kind of have to really have thick skin.
Yeah.
Or, you know, just have a quick tongue, which I have just to say to people.
I think I do like the fact that in terms of maybe the way you have to be transparent to the employers at a certain time. I mean, in regards to, like, when you were applying, did you tell them before you got the job, either one of you, or did you tell them?
Before, so I would put it on the... on the forms, I'm sure you said, like, do you have any medical conditions? I would always put it on there. Yeah. But then when they'd ask me about it, I would play it down.
Okay.
But when I did go into, like, my accounting job and stuff, I was open because at that point I'd had so many complications that there was just no way I could lie. And also references would, like, at that point
could have mentioned
on my
it.
CV. It wasn't like a first job. I've got references, so my employer would be able to say, like, you know, how many sick days has she taken? And then it's, you know.
I think it's also important to try and have a relationship with your line manager in a way where you say to them, I can do this certain amount of work for this certain amount of time. And usually when you get to know who you're working with, get to know your team, they're quite understandable. But beforehand, in the interview process and application process, it can be a little bit tricky. And for me personally, I tend to put into my strengths. Okay. So they say, do you have any strengths? Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is a good time to put in sickle cell. Yeah. And I will say, well,
that's good.
Yeah.
Spin it like that. I never thought of that. Name a time, you know, they say, like, name a time where you've shown, like, you know, resilience.
And perseverance.
Like, this one time.
I've had to organise my time because of this condition.
Yeah.
I can prioritise really my duties. Okay. I'm good at problem solving
because
exactly. So
it's all about
how you market it, your sickle cell, because it can be a downer. But if they see that you can overcome it and that they don't have to handhold you in the job and that you have control of your sickle cell, then it's not much of an issue.
That's true. I think it's also, like you said as well, it depends how you look at it, because I know back then I just hated the fact that I had sickle cell. I wasn't as open as I am now about it. I would never, like, be doing this. I didn't even used to want people to know. And I did used to see sickle cell as being a bad thing or a negative thing. And so because of that, that's probably why, you know, we didn't think of those, like, good little tips there. But also one thing too that I just wanted to point out is that I think now, just from my experience, being able to speak on it, and then also knowing what, like, people close to me have also kind of been going through or been through in employment now, a lot has changed, because I know I look young, but I'm talking like 15 years ago, guys. So 15 years ago, people didn't really care about, you know, I don't think having like employee satisfaction was that important.
Yeah,
and
I think.
Again, in the work world. So now I feel like there's a lot more awareness, and we have a lot more power in terms of like an employee.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Compared to back then. So I think it's a positive in terms of showing how things have changed for the better for us and our condition. So that's really good.
I think it's definitely speaking to other people and hearing what they've been able to get potentially out of in working in a space, and then knowing when you're going to apply for a job or when you're going to go and do something. Work in a job or apply for something, you can state these are the things that you want. Because for me, prior, I didn't have a clue. I was studying architecture, and then afterwards I came out, I decided I really wanted to work in the construction. So most times you would either be working in an office, but you would have to go on site a lot, and trying to manage the two was quite tricky, because in the winter times when it's very cold and you need to go on site, you need to make sure, okay, what the builder's doing, and you're there walking around like a female, like all pretty. It's all like, but you're freezing. I had to, if I had known certain things that I should ask my employers or put in place, then I think that experience might have gone a bit more smoothly. So it's great hearing your guys' experience. And then even in regards to, it's just sometimes I don't know if it's, because in terms of the heavy, in regards to like if you're working on your feet a lot, because I know when I was younger, I started off working in hospitality, and I would do a lot of like hosting and waitressing, and you want to do those kind of jobs, and I think it's more so if you can do it, then do it, but I think it's definitely difficult, and it can take a toll on the body.
Definitely. I had when I was in retail, on my last retail job, I actually was having problems with my hips, and then got diagnosed with having a vascular necrosis. So that was like a whole thing. And even then, like, I know that my employer didn't want to get rid of me. Like, it was a small company, so really close, like a small retail firm. But at the same time, I could just see the pressure that it was like
on them as
He wasn't
well.
too sure what to do.
So you just left.
And that thing of between small and big companies, like, I like being in small companies because I feel like I can connect, but you see how your health can really be a bit.
It's interesting because I remember one of my last workplaces, I had the employers Googling sickle cell. And they were pretty much just scaring themselves because of the horror stories and the things they were seeing. And I think when you tell someone that you have sickle cell, you kind of have to lay out what you can do and rather than letting them be afraid and worry and stress. And that takes off a little bit of pressure from them. It lets them know that you are reliable still. In terms of standing up and walking around, because I'm trying to go into banking and finance, I have to do a lot of networking, go to different events, and they're always in the evenings, quite a lot of them in the evenings, and traveling is quite difficult. So just for anyone that's looking for tips on traveling, like I always say, that if you understand that you're going out in the evening, or if you're doing a lot of walking, long johns are your best friend for me. Long johns.
As
And
a girl, I'm very. I should dress better, but I'm always like, okay, I want wear tights, or sometimes no tights. But wear proper clothes.
I guess go with the trousers. Then. You can't do the dress and the tights.
There's that whole functionality and style kind of trade-off that you have, but you kind of have to understand what's your limit. And so the networking so far has been quite good for me. I'm able to go out, meet people. I try not linger too much because then people start realizing, oh, you're actually getting really tired now. And
do you get support from your employers? Because I'm not sure like if it's the same with sickle cell, but can you not get like help towards transport costs and stuff like that that may be available?
Personally, I haven't been in a situation where I'm traveling for my.
But I think we could like ask people potentially.
I think that might be. We'll find out for you guys.
Yes, if you guys know, do let us know in the comments, please. Because I do wonder if that's something I have been thinking, is that an option? Can they consider, not obviously, I don't think all the time when you're going to work, but potentially on like really bad days, it could be a consideration. Or just making sure you get like maybe a cab card. In London we have it, I don't know if you have it up in Birmingham, but it's a Comcab card where you can get discounts on your travels. So if you do need to get a cab, it's just going to cost you less. And yeah, that might be an option.
Good.
In regards to, all right, so I'm going to do SOS shout out now. Yeah?
Okay.
So in regards to, I think we're going to talk about the event that we just had. So guys, how did you find the event?
It was good.
It was amazing. It was great.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody that came. I was actually surprised with the amount of people that turned up. Not that I didn't think anyone would come, because obviously you guys love us.
No, the turnout was...
It was more than
Yeah.
expected.
Yeah.
We had some celebs in the building as well. A-Star came. So I think you guys mentioned him on the last podcast that he released a track called Hidden Pain.
Yeah, so he's going to, I think they're going to do a remake version. So the Be Positive Choir apparently will be in the remake version.
Oh, are you going to be in the background?
I don't think so. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. But so yeah, A-Star was there. Kenny, Sickle from he was there too. Manny,
who does like My Fitability.
Yeah.
There was Chanel from Unsickle My Cells.
We had a great singer, Gold. Oh my days, her voice.
Literally gave me goosebumps.
I know. And because she was like more of a tenor range, like when females like are lower tenor, because you always hear people that are more main singers will be in the alto stroke soprano range.
I'm learning new words.
So singers. So because she was tenor, like it was beautiful. She was like a Tony
really
Braxton
good.
tenor.
The message in her songs was
yes,
amazing. It was
yeah.
The
deep.
message as
It
well,
was
guys.
deep.
Because she said she wrote it while she was unwell and in
Yeah,
hospital.
in
So
hospital.
explaining that part of it was good, because then you really did connect more so with the song.
Yes, by the way, guys, everyone were mentioning like has sickle cell, so this is really like important, just to show that, you know, we all came out to support each other. And the DJ as well.
Oh, so the DJ, Miles
Miles.
DJ, yes. Oh yeah, he was really good. Like I was just listening to the tunes. I was like, I want to start dancing.
I think I was dancing around.
I danced small, but I was like, I know I want to dance a bit more. But next time.
I think we need to have like a whole after party next time.
Definitely.
Because it was a good event. We had like a panel. We recorded a live episode as well.
Yeah, so check that out.
So there was a lot going on. So there wasn't a lot of time to shake the booty and all that.
But we're definitely grateful that people turned out, came through for the event, and we'll let you know when the next one comes up. Yeah.
Good stuff.
So in regards to, so I think we could probably talk now about people who have been making it, because even at this event you saw people who, even regardless of having sickle cell, they are pursuing different careers, pursuing different ventures. So we've also know some people, celebs and famous people potentially, who have still been making it. So you guys want to mention anyone?
Celebrities.
Yes.
There's T-Boz.
Yes, the main one that we all
From
tend to hear.
TLC.
Yeah.
I was going to sing a song then, but then two came at once, so I didn't know what I was doing. But yes, Tion Watkins from TLC. She has, she doesn't actually have sickle cell anemia. I'm sure she has a different strain of hemoglobin.
Do you think it might be
sickle beta thal or
Yeah,
something
I've
like
heard
that?
Yeah.
But she talks about it in her book.
So the book's called A Sick Life, TLC and Me. So that book kind of seemed to talk about her experience being in TLC, but having trying to live a double life of, you know, being a major performer out there in the world.
The book is actually, I have read the book. It is amazing. She kind of talks about how she's two different people.
Yeah.
She's like Tion Watkins in one sense, and then she's like T-Boz from TLC in another sense.
So the alter ego.
And you know, you have to kind of get your work on and just do what you got to do.
Do you guys have any alter egos?
I got plenty.
I got Maya, by the way, just letting you know.
What Maya?
Yeah, but that's just my initials. But I usually just be like, you know, sometimes when you're out, you have to converse with people in a certain type of way. So I have that persona.
Is this just a girl thing? Do you have one?
I don't have one myself.
This might
no.
It might be.
It might be a female thing.
Mine is Paris.
Paris.
Wow.
Yeah, She's quite feisty. But yeah, so her book just touches on that, and it's really relatable. So for anyone, I think it's a good read.
Yeah,
definitely a good read.
Definitely would want to read it. There's another author.
So the author that I've come across is a woman by the name of P. Allen Jones.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she has a book called I Only Cry at Night. And it's basically her autobiography of her struggling with sickle cell, growing up at a time where there wasn't much research.
Yeah.
And she was growing up in a environment where she had to struggle with racism. She had to struggle with trying to get through her education and then finding work with her sickle cell. Yeah. And her book just kind of goes through from when she was young, being a child, to growing up being an adult. And so, yeah, I would definitely recommend people check it out.
Oh, have to add that to my reading list.
So authors. In regards to actors, so I know there's an actor, what's his name? His name's Lorenz Tate.
Lorenz Tate.
Yeah. So he was in quite a few. He's been in quite a few like movies. And
He was
shows.
in Girls Trip.
Yes, Girls Trip.
He's so fine. He's so fine.
I know. When I saw him, I was like, and I would have never guessed he had sickle. So you got to be careful, girls. Guys, everyone.
Does he actually have full sickle?
He talks about it. We can confirm, but in regards to he does things about sickle cell awareness. I think he created a foundation with his brother, so he's out there in the community talking about it. But he does come up a lot.
There's Prodigy as well from
musician,
Mobb Deep, is it?
The late Prodigy.
R.I.P. to a real one.
So I remember seeing a couple clips where he would end up speaking about his struggle of having it, and even in regards to faith, like how he has that clash of, okay, I'll have this kind of pain, like where is God? That was kind of like intense. But I think he references it in his music. I don't listen to him, so I don't know enough about him. It was just once, he passed, you saw a lot coming
I think people always associate him with like the whole beef thing with Tupac, because Tupac was like being very, against him, saying one of you got sickle cell. And I like Tupac. So
it was quite controversial.
Yeah, Tupac. I don't really appreciate that, but I appreciate you as well, because I do like Tupac. But yeah. There's a few other people. I feel like there has to be more.
Yes, I think there's just a lot of undercovers, like people that just maybe they're not ready to speak about it. People who I wanted to find a lot of UK ones. I'm sure there are people in the UK who have it and are, very high up in their career.
But guys, you can, holler one of us, because there's got to be some out there. I know a few. There's Jordan Dunn's son has sickle cell. So Jordan Dunn is a supermodel. Her son has sickle cell anemia. So she just does a lot of fundraising and some raising awareness for it as well. But there has to be more. So I feel like you guys need to just like come out the woodworks and come on the bad guests and
let us see its representation. Let the younger generation know that you can still make it regardless of having this condition, because I think representation is great, and when you can hear or see someone who's been has something similar or something you can connect with, then
I know, I hear that. There's another famous girl who has written a children's book as well. I think her name is Ginny Kalia.
Oh yeah, okay. Who is she? Where is she?
I never heard of her.
Yes, I'm talking about myself. Sometimes you have to be your own, toot your own horn.
Yes.
Beep, beep. But yes, so I am an author of a children's book which is called My Friend Jen. And the book is, like you were talking about representation, it is all about Jen's journey with sickle cell. So the first book just talks about what sickle cell is and how you can stay well with sickle cell. And it's really, I wrote it just to give something back to the younger generation, because as I touched on earlier about like my whole younger, like how I used to feel about sickle cell, I really hated it and I didn't want to speak about it or anything like that. So I thought that creating something where young children can be like, this is what I have and it's okay. Just because I've got sickle cell, it doesn't mean that I'm different. It doesn't mean there's things I can't do. So just to keep the positivity there and everything like that. And that was kind of one of the first things that I'd done after I published that book. I'd always had this idea of wanting to go self-employed.
Yes.
Because as you've heard, my journey of employment wasn't that good. And I really got to the point where I was making myself worse by trying to force myself to go into work when I knew I wasn't well.
Yeah.
I'm talking like discharge myself from hospital with like jaundice eyes, temperature, just to go do a quick shift on the shop floor and then go back and admit myself again.
Yeah.
And even now, just saying it sounds crazy.
But the things you'll do, especially when you're younger, like you'd put yourself through hell because you just, well, for me, it was more so I really wanted to get the experience, and I didn't know that I could set things up potentially that even if I am getting experience or I am working, I can have a smoother journey. So, yeah. But
there's a lot of things out there. So from that experience, the book just kind of opened this world for me, which I didn't really expect.
Oh, wow.
But everything got a bit crazy, and then I had to reduce my hours to part-time, and then it still continued to be crazy. So I was like, do you know what? Maybe this is what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So I quit my job at my small company, which was nice. It was a nice, I used to do accounting and finance and stuff. It was really nice there, and that place that I was really supportive, but, you know, it was time to move on, time to change. So we'd done that, and off the back of my book, there was a lot of people that also I found wanted to write books, so they wanted to know how I got into it and stuff. So, you know, there was a demand. So I created something to fill that gap. And I launched my publishing company. So we kind of help people who want to write books to kind of, whether you want mentoring in terms of how to help writing or how to get the steps into publishing your book and all that kind of stuff, which is good. So that has been taking me on for 2 years now.
How different is your life now compared to when you was an employee working at the small company to doing and managing this publishing company?
One, I'm happy. I'm so happy.
You can like set up your own time.
Yeah,
and
everything is manageable.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. It does. Being self-employed is hard. Like, even if you ask somebody who doesn't have a condition that they have to manage and everything, it is just hard anyway, because what I found is that it's good because I can work full time. I know that everything I'm putting into it is all for me. Yeah. It's not like I'm doing all these things to go and work for somebody else. Yeah. So that's one kind of like driving force. Yeah. There are times where if I'm not well, things just don't get done. But then I had to think, okay, so maybe I need to get an intern or someone to help. And the goal is to kind of get more permanent employees by the end of it. But it really helps me in terms of time management. So I'll try and do things ahead of time, or I know that I have to schedule in breaks. So in my week, I'll have a day or maybe 2 days, depending on how I'm feeling, where I know I'm not doing anything in terms of work. It's just purely rest. And it works for me. I've got a balance. I can do more things as well, so I can have a social life, I can go out, I can come to London because I actually live in Birmingham. I can do things like come on the podcast, so it's really good. Okay. So, you know, there's pluses and negatives to both sides, but for me, it's been the best thing that I've done.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good.
Honestly, in regards to like just different options, so you can obviously go into like full-time employment, part-time employment, self-employed. You can do all if you really want to, but just try it. So I'm doing the next SOS shout out. That one will be in regards to NHS takeover.
Yes, it's you. Shouts out to Mary.
So on the 8th of April, I'm going to be taking over the NHS England Twitter page. And then I'm hoping it will be, I want to shed light on the experience of having sickle cell and some of the treatments that I go through and some of the projects that I'm involved with. So like I'll be touching on the NHS blood and transplant, B positive choir, also the experiences having blood exchanges. So funny enough, it fell in that week. So I've got an exchange. So I need to make sure my cross match and everything's okay, so people go on that journey with me. And then also speaking about this podcast.
Don't forget about us, guys. Mary's got her hands in a lot of pots, you know.
And then I think podcast and some mentoring stuff that the Sickle Cell Society has put on, and things that have just like that can benefit a lot of people in our position. So yeah, that's the NHS takeover. We'll see how it goes because it's Twitter. I use it, but I'm not like hella active. So I'm gonna ask my
next
sister.
week sounds like an active week.
Yeah, active very week. I've got physio as well.
So what's the NHS Twitter handle for those that are listening? If they miss it, we can find it. Is it just at NHS?
So it's at NHS England. But I'll be like retweeting on my page, which is Profesh Patient or just Professional Patient 25. So yeah, I'll retweet on that, but NHS England, and then you'll see my name. It'll just be like Mary for that week. So yeah,
She can be famous, guys. Twitter famous.
yeah, I don't know about
I'm
that.
gonna be retweeting.
My mum was making a big deal out of it because when I first heard about it, I didn't know what I was like. Oh yeah, that's fine, but I didn't really know much about it.
It is a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like trying to be as calm as possible, guys.
No, I'm not being calm for you.
Yeah. But my mum was like, Mary, do you know what you're doing? So yeah. We'll see. It should be fine.
Shouts out to you.
Yeah. So yes, in regards to so any last comments potentially around
Career, employment. I think obviously we've discussed lots of different things,
So many.
but just to let people know that there is help out there. So if you are in employment, whether full-time or part-time, occupational health can help you.
Yes.
If you need any extra things, like, you know, I had like a special chair and you said that you got like a footrest and stuff. If whoever you work for, they should be like, they should have an occupational health
team
person
that you can go to.
you can go to. They'll do an assessment, and then they can assess your needs and what would make your work life better.
Yeah.
And then you can put these things in place.
I think also trying to talk to people or seeing what is out there as well, because my mum did use the occupational health, and sometimes you do need to like go in knowing a bit what potentially they can do to assist you and help you. So that's the tricky thing, because obviously Sickle affects all of us very differently. But maybe talking to other people who have it and seeing what they've got, and seeing things even outside of Sickle with other long-term health conditions, what they've got, and see what might actually help you, because what's going to help me won't help the next person.
Also, I would suggest that if you are working and you are in a company, you're not too sure how to talk to your employers, find someone who can advocate for you as well. Find a mentor. Find someone who...
Find Stefan, guys.
Yeah, find
Positive
Stefan.
ideas.
And just having that other person in the workplace that could be an advocate and mentor for you will make things a lot easier for you.
Definitely. Having the support, I think, is good, especially of someone who is... you know, in the workplace too, so they can see what you go through, or they might have some ideas as well of what could make your work life easier.
Yeah.
And if you do have any issues with your employer, you can have like a union rep. Like in any meetings or anything to discuss, like, you know, anything like that, just to have some backup in case you've got to, you know, take them court or whatever. If you've got any legal issues. But you guys won't have none of those problems because, you know, we're staying positive.
Yes. Okay, so last part will be our prize draw. Yeah.
I feel like this one's going to be a really good giveaway.
So we need you guys to like fill out some surveys. So in regards to seeing how you found the podcast, I hope you guys did enjoy it, and then we'll pick someone. We'll put your names in a hat and pick someone, and the prize this week. Prize this week is
My Friend Jen book.
Yes. So in regards to with this book, I did take a picture of your the front of the page, which I really did like in regards to the message. And it was a message. So the message was like a message from one sickle warrior to another. Just like Jen, there is nothing that you can't do. Living with sickle cell will not stop you from being whatever you want to be. So dream big. So guys, you know, dream big, dream big. We've spoken about careers. You can obviously take away things that you feel like you can gain and learn from this podcast, and just know you can reach for your stars and your goals. Reach for your goals. And
Reach for the stars.
Reach for your stars.
Reach for your goals. Reach for
I'm
everything.
always messing up quotes. Okay, yes. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast and fill out the surveys.
Yes. Fill them out.
Thank you for listening, and also follow our Instagram page, Self Over Sickle.
Yes. Bye.
See you guys later.